there, everyone. How are we all doing today? All right. So, as the start video showed, I hear voices. Hold on. Where am I hearing voice? Oh, I know where I'm hearing voices from. There we go. Thought I got away with technical difficulties this morning. Apparently, I was wrong. Alrighty. So today we are working on our Quilted Travel Tote. I'm still hearing voices. Why am I still hearing voices? All right. Because I don't know how to use things. Okay. So we are finishing up our, or not finishing up, we probably won't get it done today, our 10 pocket travel tote, which we are making using quilted fabric instead of just regular old fabric. So we've got the fabric made. We have most of the inside made. So the next thing we need to do is we need to baste our pocket to our fabric lining. That is, we're on step 20, and it's the second part of step 20, where it says switch to a heavy-duty needle using a 1/2 inch seam, machine-based zipper pouch to tote lining along side edges. So I've actually been using a universal 90 needle the whole time, so I'm not switching needles. And I'm not going to baste at a 1/2 inch because I don't want the basting to be shown later on, so I'm going to baste somewhere around 1/4 inch. So over to the machine we go. Alrighty. So basting is basically pinning with thread. And you just use the longest stitch you have available to you. And this does not have to be perfect in any way, shape, or form. Oh, that's right. We were out of bobbin thread. I forgot about that. Let me get you out of the way. We were almost out of bobbin thread there. All right, everything's there. Slow my speed down. Ooh. It helps if you move the bobbin over. There we go. All right, that's better. So back to basting we go. And this is the point where they're talking about having a heavy-duty needle, because at this point we are going through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 layers of fabric. And I prefer to go from the bottom of the pocket up. So I am going to move all of this and kind of roll it up so that we can start at the bottom on this side. And same thing. And there we go. Now we have our pocket. Oh, I should have stayed at the sewing machine. Okay. So the next thing is a little weird, but the way it comes out is really cool. So we're going to drop back down to regular stitch length. And I'm not going to mess with that, the foot. I'm just going to leave it there. And we are going to sew inside the zipper pocket. So we're going to sew inside the pocket. That's going to attach, because right now our zipper pocket and our lining are not, I mean, they're attached with the basting that we did on either side, but it's just one big open area back there. We're going to make it so it actually has 2 open areas behind it. To do that, we need to sew a seam down the middle. And if you would like, go ahead and measure it and get it exactly where you want it. If you want more than 2 slots, so let's say you want to put shoes in here and you want to keep, or flip-flops, and you've got 3 people, you're going to use this bag at the beach. So you have 3 people and you want 3 sets of shoes and you want them to be able to be separate. You can put, it's going to get more challenging the closer you get to the edge of the zipper, but you can do it. I questioned whether this would work when I did the first one, and it does work, and it's really kind of cool. All right, so you want to make sure, if you don't have an automatic way on your machine to tack down your seam, you want to stitch forward, backward, and forward, so do a back tack. I'm starting just about in the middle of the 2 top stitches that we did at the beginning, or at the bottom I should say, because I want to be able to fold over the top if I need to. So I'm starting at the bottom of the top stitching. Yes, I am. And that's my knot. So now I have to make sure to keep this out of the way. So this is where it gets a little tricky. If you want to draw a line so that you can see exactly where you're going, that's perfectly acceptable. Make sure that you don't sew over the top part, the other part of the pocket. And keep everybody straight and flat. Getting to the bottom here because we're going to stop when we get to the seam of the pocket. And tack. And cut. Okay. Let's go over here and take a look at what we did. So here is the thread where we started. You can see the stitch starts there and it goes all the way down the inside of the pocket to the point where the two pieces of fabric for our pocket lining join together. So now I'm going to cut my thread. And this pocket, or this area behind here, now has two slots. One over there and one over here. Excellent. All right. So that was step number 21. It says to start 1 inch down from zipper. I think I started too close, but it'll. Sew on the inside of the pocket through all layers. Well, at this point there's the pocket lining, the pocket exterior, and the lining, to create an interior divider with 2 equal spaces. So we talked about that. That's what we did. All right. Step number 22. So 22 is to add batting to the exterior fabric. We don't have to do that because when we quilted it, we put batting on it. So it is done. Fold the outside tote in half with right sides together so short edges align, pin. Sew a 1/2 inch seam starting at the fold and sewing to raw edges. Trim away batting close to stitching, press seam open. All right, let's get the lining out of the way. Pull down. Fold, right sides together, and we're going to go to the sewing machine and sew a 1/2 inch seam. All right, so now we are getting into a heavier stuff, so we're going to switch back to our walking foot. We want to make sure everybody stays together. Alrighty. There we go. Where'd my thread? There it is. Okay. And it says start at the fold and work up. Well, the fold we don't have because we used 2 pieces of fabric. And for me, a 1/2 inch is the edge of my walking foot. So that was fairly easy. All we did was sew 2 straight seams up the side of either of the front. Step number 24 says to fold the tote lining in half and do the exact same thing. Now with this, there's going to be some additional issues, because we have not only the tote pocket with the zipper, but we have the utility pocket here also. You want to line up your corners and work your way down, but just like with the front, we are going to be sewing from the bottom up. But you want to make sure you get everybody squared away and even before you start sewing. So you're as close to being even as you can be before you start sewing. Because there's going to be a lot of layers of fabric that we're going to sew through here. Especially considering we're using quilted fabric for our utility pocket. Oh, here, let me. So our zipper sits up on the top like this. But the end tabs we're going to fold out so that it goes flat at the seam, but then it widens so the zipper is sitting on the top of the bag. And you can see that the belting frays a lot, which is what causes us an issue at the very end. If you watched the 10 Pocket Travel Tote video, which is what I'm making again, just with different fabric, in the playlist, the very last video, you will see I have an issue with belting, and that we're going to take care of this time. All right. Starting at the bottom, 1/2 inch seam. So now we have to walk over all of these layers of fabric. So we're going to try and keep everybody straight and not shifting. And now we're coming to a point where we're going to go down. We're not going to have as many layers of fabric. So again, keeping everybody straight. There we go. All nice and straight. Now, other side. Okay, time to move it on up. Voila. We have our seams. So this is the seam we just did. There's a basting seam that we used to attach the utility pocket. There's the seam on the other side, and there's our basting stitch we used to attach the zipper pocket. So now you see why I like to do the basting a little further in. That way there's no chance of finding it at the end. All right, next step, I do not believe we're going to do first. We are not. So over here, on the other side of the directions, there's step 32. In step 32, the pattern designer has us take all of the layers, so the exterior and the interior, make a 3.5-inch triangle inside the bag, stitch a seam, and then tack down the triangle to the bottom of the bag. I don't like the way she does that. The problem I have with it is you can then see the fabric on the inside of the bag. So it looks to me to be a little sloppy. So I am going to do the exact same thing, but I'm going to do it now, and I'm going to do it to the lining once and to the bag exterior once, and then you're not going to see it because we're going to put the lining inside the bag. All right, so I'm going to do the exterior first because I do believe it's going to be easier, even though it's quilted. I think I'm going to have better luck because this has got a lot of stuff in it, and I'm just afraid that it's going to be a challenge. Okay, so we take our bag, we open it up, we lay it on the corner. So now we have our corner. And we want to try and keep it so that the seam we have here, the edge seam, and the bottom seam are straight. To do that, we need to be inside the bag a little and just shift until we get it nice and flat. So now, the way to check this, the way I check it, there are probably a million ways, but the way I check it is I take a pin, so a standard everyday pin, I'm going to poke it in to the seam and all the way through and see where it comes out. Now you can't see that because there's not. So the seam, there's the pin, and it's just off the seam, so we're not quite straight. So I need to shift this top piece just a little bit. Come on, there we go. To the left. And now I went too far the other way. Of course I did, because it just needed to go a smidge. And I went too far. All right, let's see. How are we doing? Focus. There we go. So now we've got the seam, or the pin, right in the middle. And I tacked it down so that it doesn't shift. Now that pin is going to cause me a problem in a minute here. But I like to leave it there so that I can make sure that nothing moves around. We're going to take a ruler, any ruler, and the tip of the bag is going to go on the 3.5 inch, or 1, 2, 3. Yeah, I was right. 3.5 inches. So this big yellow line, oops, you're out of focus. Come on, silly thing. Focus. There we go. I need the longer one. 1, 2, 3.5. Where's the tip of the bag? Tip of the bag is right there. So we line it up on the 3.5 inch mark. We make sure that our ruler is on the seam, so we're square on the seam. We take our lovely writing tool and we draw a line. So now we have a mark in 3.5 inches, which is what we need. We're going to do the same thing on the other corner. Oh, I'm really off on that one. There we go. Right in the seam. Pin is holding it down. Everybody's straight and flat and square. Line up our ruler at 3.5. Make sure it follows along the seam and draw our line. Okay. So now we are going to go to our machine, to our sewing machine, and we are going to stitch on that line. Not off of the on one side or the other, on the line. You want to make sure the rest of the bag's out of the way. Our seams are pressed open. Voila. First one done. Okay, so now we have our tote bag. and it has these triangles sticking out. These are the triangles that in the pattern would have been on the inside of the bag, and the pattern maker has you fold them into the bottom and tack them down. This is still something you can do if you want to. I'm going to cut them off. So I take my ruler, and because I have a 1/2 inch seam on the sides, I am going to cut a 1/2 inch in from the line. So here's our blue line. It's got stitching on it. Put my ruler on the blue line at a 1/2 inch away. And did I get it all? No, I didn't. There we go. And this is why earlier I mentioned I didn't care whether the batting went exactly to the corner, because I knew I was going to cut it off. Line it up. And yeah, see, here's where that batting did not go all the way to the corner. Didn't even go in the seam. But now we have batting everywhere. All right. So this is going to get turned right side out. We poke out our corners a little bit, make sure it's nice and straight. We have a nice square bottom. Well, rectangular, I should say. It's a rectangle. And this will be the size of our finished bag. And as you can see, I was concerned, I made the comment about the bottom points not matching. It's no big deal. I did mess up one thing. I thought that the fabric, this one, that I liked the best, that was the fabric I put on the very top of our strips when I made it. I thought that was going to be the main fabric scene. I forgot it's the second one. I wasn't taking into account the fold under. But I still kind of like, that was my second favorite, so I'm okay with that. So this is going to be our finished bag. Now we have to do something I'm not certain I want to do. We have to put these corners on the lining. And this is going to be probably more challenging. Put that bag down there. So now we have to do the same thing we did to the exterior fabric with the lining fabric. And there's so much stuff in here that's going to want to wobble around and not sit right. Wow, that wasn't nearly as challenging as I thought it was going to be. All right. So now this time we don't have a seam, but we do have a slight fold line in here. If you wanted to put in a mark of some kind, you could do that. But we still need to go through the same steps, making sure that we're straight and lined up. quite on the fold. We are just a little bit that way. So I need to shift my seam over a bit. There we go. There's a car outside beeping its horn, and I don't know why. All right. I'm going to clip this down so it lays a little flatter. It's going to get cut off anyway, so it really doesn't matter. I have a kitty cat loving my leg. So my 3.5 inches should be the bottom of my utility bag. And I say should be because it's not. That's only 3. Did I not measure it correctly? Let's read the directions. How far up was the utility pocket supposed to be? Utility pocket. 3.5 inches up from the seam. I obviously didn't measure it very well because it's only 3 inches. So we're going to just go to the bottom of the utility pocket. Woo! There's a kitty cat messing with the camera stand. Okay, that side's easy because it's all there. And this way. All right. So we have it tacked down. So now we're going to go to the other side and do the same thing. There we go. All right. Let's open up our seam. Yep, just shy of 3 inches. Ooh. Keep it straight. There we go. All right. To the machine we go. All right, why are we getting stuck on the table? There we go. Voila. That really was a lot easier than I thought it was going to be. I thought that those pockets were going to get in my way. Oh, sweet girl. Hi, baby. She's hanging out in the bag that's not done yet. All right. So now we need our 1/2 inch. And again, I'm only doing it because I don't want all that bulk in the bag at the bottom. All right. Takes care of that and this. Now, this is not going to get turned right side out. We are leaving this the way it is. Yep, everybody's good. Because now we are going to take our exterior bag, which has a thread on it, which we need to cut off. There we go. We are taking the exterior of the bag, and we are going to put the interior inside the bag. And if you have a certain direction you want these pockets to be on the inside, you know, if there's a specific exterior part of it that you want to carry in a certain way, you know, this would be the time to do that. And we're just fitting everybody inside in the corners. And because of that little bit, like 1/4 of an inch, we've got extra fabric from the lining sticking up. So we're going to have to solve that problem. It's not too bad on the inside. It's a little noticeable, but it's not terrible. And of course, now I'm telling myself I should have done the lining first. That way I would have known to make the bag at 3 1/4 instead of 3 1/2. But it's not too bad. They're fitting together after some coercion fairly well. Like I said, the top is the biggest problem. All right, so to solve that problem, now that I've got everybody fit inside, let's do this. And now I'm going to trim the lining. There we go. And now we all fit together. Do we baste it? Yes. Step number 25 now says to baste the pieces together. And the directions do say to baste from the inside of the bag, and you do want to do that because you want to make sure you're not sewing over anything that could cause a problem, like a zipper pull or anything like that. And if you were sewing from the outside of the bag, you wouldn't be able to see that stuff. Well, that just made a beep. Finally figured out where the beep came from. I get a beep all the time. I can never tell exactly where it's coming from. Now I know. It did it while I was sitting right next to it for a change. All right. Trim off some of these threads because they're going to get in my way. So, exterior and interior are now attached. Okay, that's step number 25. 26. On the outside of the tote, pin handles 4.5 inches in from side seams with raw edges facing top of tote and extending 1/4 inch above the edge and with a slight angle outward, being careful not to twist handles. All right. Handles. So we need a ruler. And there's the edge. Oh, I thought I had you zoomed in. Sorry. There we go. There's the edge, that's the seam. So we want to go in 4.5 inches from the seam. Now the other thing it says to do is to put the top of the handle 1/4 inch past the top. And now we are going to clip it in place. And voila, we have one side. This is where you have to be very cautious. Make sure you do not twist the handle the wrong way. So let me angle you up a little bit so you can see a little better. All right. So this is how the handle needs to look. If you were to do this, now your handle is going to be twisted and not lay correctly when you use it. So you want to make absolutely certain that you have it laying so it does the correct loop. So again, 1/4 inch above the edge, 4.5 inches in. There we go. And line up the handle. Come on. And clip. Voila. Now I am going to baste this handle on first and then come back and put the second handle on. One handle. Okay, so we have both pieces of the handle basted on that side. And now we need to do this side. Okay, and now over here, again, making sure we've got our handle not twisted, facing the correct direction we want it to. All right. A little water, always good for me. And back to the sewing machine. go. And now, because I'm always afraid that I messed up the handles, I like to hook them up gently so as to not pull the basting out, and just make sure that the handles are going to be in the correct direction, and they are. I'm not seeing, oh, there's orange at the very top. There's very little orange on the exterior of this bag now. Oh well, gives it a little color. A little pop of color. Let's see here. After we do that, now we are going to pin the belting facing, which is part E, last part we have left here, to the bag. One-quarter inch below the raw edge, the top raw edge of the tote. I have a basting stitch that I'm going to use as my guide because I did it 1/4 of an inch. So we're going to start pinning the belting around. That's too far down. There we go. Make sure your handles are hanging down. That's important for later on. Nope. All right, so I got around to the side here, and I don't have enough of this. So this is too long. So let's shorten that up. All right, so now I pretty much have an even amount of belting hanging over the edge. We're going to sew that up. Alrighty, so we're going to call it a day because I can't complete the bag today, and I don't want part 6 to only be like 20 minutes long. So we're going to call it a day for today. In part 6, we will attach this belting, because we are currently on step 27 in the directions, and we've only got a little bit left to go. I am planning on probably putting the optional zipper in. Still not 100% certain. It's going to depend on how it looks when we get there. But we're going to sew the belting on. We're going to do all the top stitching, and we are going to add some additional stitching so that the handles do not pull out of the bag and render the bag useless, which the other 2 10-pocket travel totes I have are at this point useless. I think I've got a way to fix them so that I can actually put them back to use, but at this point they cannot be used. So don't forget to thumbs up, like, subscribe, follow, remind, whatever you need to do so that we can get you can see more videos. I am currently at 87 subscribers, which doesn't sound like much, but considering what I'm doing and how I'm doing it, it to me is a pretty big deal. I'd love to be able to break 100. That would be my first goal to get through. So whatever you need to do, just go ahead and do it, and we will see you in part 6, where we will finish up the Quilted Travel